Marta Hereźniak. She is professor at the University of Lodz in Poland, and she is the author of the first doctoral dissertation and the first book about nation branding in Poland. Hello, Marta.
Hello.
Can you hear us?
Of course, I can hear you perfectly. I hope you can hear me as well.
Yes, so you can start, and the topic of the report is creating place brand experience in the online environment, challenges, methods, best practice, and you have 15 minutes for the report and 5 minutes for questions.
Sure, thank you very much. Okay, so welcome everyone. I'm very grateful, first of all, for being invited to this wonderful event. And I hope that today I can share with you some of the insights about how modern technologies can be used for the more effective place branding. So let me begin with, without any further ado. Okay, so the agenda for today looks as follows. First of all, I'm going to talk about places in the online environment and why they happen to be perfectly suited for the usage of the many modern technologies that we have at hand. Then we're going to look into some major challenges, and I'm going to back up my presentation with certain schemes or ideas from place branding literature. We're going also to look into the digital place branding toolbox and what to do and what to avoid, and also, just like my title suggests, some good practice examples. Okay, so let's begin. I'd like to begin with a quote, which I think is especially useful for this presentation. Just forgive me for reading this out, but I think it's quite necessary. So Robert Govers, one of the key thinkers and writers in place branding, he said something like this, that unlike corporate products or service brands, the physical form of which we encounter daily in retail environments or through product experience, place brands are largely virtual. The actual experience of place is the prerequisite of locals and those relatively few international travelers that visit a certain place. For the vast majority of people, the brand images of most places are completely virtual, and hence it is not surprising that the word of mouth has been known to be one of the most important sources of information for people to form images of places. By extension, the increasing of importance of social media is hardly surprising. Okay, so what Govers is trying to tell us is that a large part of place branding activity takes, in fact, place in the virtual environment. And that's why, just next to the things that we are doing in the physical environment, digital environment should be of the big concern to place branders, to practitioners, and to representatives of municipalities or nations alike. So moving forward with that type of thinking, let's focus on how places in the online environment, how they are suited for each other. Okay, if we look at different characteristics of places and what I labeled here, digital media, we can see some analogies which are very important. For example, places, which you have heard probably many times throughout this webinar, are complex entities. They are multidimensional, they have many layers, many aspects. And they are experiential by nature. So in order to be in a place, to get to know it, you need to experience it. They are participatory, which means that they require community participation in order to thrive and to develop. Places are also about multiple stakeholders. So we know that to make the place develop, we need to have input from various stakeholders like local companies, like local media or culture people or academia and all sorts of other stakeholders. And they are reliant mostly upon the community, which means they are community-based. So without a vibrant and active community, places cannot develop in the way they would like to. And if we look at those characteristics of places, we can also see that digital media allow these characteristics to thrive and kind of reinforce them additionally. So digital media, they are democratic, by definition. They are inclusive and accessible. They are interactive and engaging, but they also have the ability to individualize, which is one of the things that people want to do these days. They want to feel part of the whole, but they want to also to be able to express their individuality. And most of all, they are community-based. So without a strong community also in the digital environment, companies, places, and other entities cannot thrive. So having those two in mind, let's focus for a moment about what are the challenges that are posed for the places in the online environment. And here I'll be backing myself up with the work of two of my colleagues, Sonia Hanna and Jennifer Rowley, who have come up with this very smart way of presenting the major challenges for digital place branding, as we should call it. They encapsulate it in the formula of the 7 C's, which signify the following elements: channels, clutter, community, chatter, communication, co-creation, and collaboration. So what do they mean? Okay, first of all, there is the channel challenge. Okay, so we live in the era of diverse, fragmented communication channels. And so places in the online environment, they need to adopt the multi-channel strategy, but they also need to adopt the strategy that facilitates switching between channels, so that the story that we want to tell, the experience that we want to convey, becomes more coherent. The second issue is clutter. As I said before, places are multidimensional, they have many layers, and naturally, consequently, they also have many sub-brands, as we say, to represent them. So within any place, there are corporate brands, there are brands of tourism attractions, there are brands of sports teams and other things. So the question is, how do we find a way to produce a unified message across all these sub-brands that are represented by the place? So this is the second challenge. The third challenge is the challenge of the community. So basically, how do we give any chance to the community? Do we provide them with any digital space to be able to talk, to be able to exchange their experiences and their opinions on the place, about the place? So do we provide them with such a sphere in the digital world? The fourth challenge is the chatter challenge. Chatter means that places, just like human beings, should be engaged in meaningful conversations with different stakeholders and different community members that have actually something to say and something to contribute to the idea of place, whether it is with the place's identity or certain problems that the place is facing. So the challenge here is, do we have the means and do we have the people to engage in such conversations digitally? The next thing is communication, and here I'm referring more to the marketing communication. Of course, marketing communication in the case of place branding is like the tip of the iceberg. So place branding cannot rely on marketing communications only, but without a coherent marketing communication, place brand will not have the chance to be moved forward and to become recognizable in the minds of target audiences. So this is necessary. So do we have a marketing communication strategy across different digital channels? The last but one is co-creation. Co-creation is a challenge that says, okay, we acknowledge that our place is diverse, that people have different takes and different perspectives to look into the place's identity and into the experience that the place offers. And we also acknowledge that these stakeholders have a number of valuable and important contributions to the co-creation of the place's identity and therefore the place's brand. So the question for the digital world is, do we enable them to do so? Do we allow them to do so? Do we source from their ideas and from their notions? And the last one is called collaboration. In this sense, we mean, do we provide any platforms for stakeholders to collaborate? So do we give them any space, any tools, so that they can connect, so that they can become interconnected when it comes to contributing to the place's identity? So for instance, do local companies have the chance to collaborate with local universities? Do they have the chance to collaborate with arts, with media that are represented locally? Do these brands, these sub-brands of a place, do they speak in a unified voice? Do they have the chance to use the synergy effect? So this would be it when it comes to the major challenges. Now let's move forward and let's see about the trends that are happening in the online environment for places. Okay, the trends can be summarized as human-oriented technology, which means that in place branding, technologies have the sole purpose to ensure a more smooth and seamless experience of the place. Okay, we have a trend of co-creation, which I have just addressed in the previous slide. We have the trends of experiences, which have to be immersive and and modern technologies allow us to do that to a greater extent. We have this trend called living in the moment, in which we kind of want to share everything instantly the moment we see it. And we have the trend called transmedia, which means that we have to find ourselves in different media channels across different environments. I'm going to talk about it in a minute. So how about those trends? Okay, we have those trends and we have a certain toolbox. So certain things, certain instruments that allow us to ensure more coherent place brand experience. Okay, and without further ado, let's swipe through them. Okay, we've got, of course, websites, and I've put here New Zealand website as one of the model websites for place brands, and I strongly encourage you to visit it as a very coherent, very dynamic website. We've got blogs and microblogs in which we can ensure that this is a growing sector. Actually, it is estimated that we have around 900,000 blog entries in 24 hours each day, and actually the industry also recognizes the importance of these blogs. This is, for example, a case of Toronto blog, which is written entirely by the citizens, which also serves the purpose of co-creation of the place brand identity. We have things that are not very often discussed or talked about. These are three-dimensional virtual environments, like, for example, Second Life, which have been used for some years now by several countries and several cities that actually have its replicas in the Second Life environments, and that basically pursue the same agenda like in real life. Like, for instance, in the case of Dublin, whenever there is a St. Patrick's Day celebration in real life, there is also a second live celebration of St. Patrick's Day. So the players, which are an increasingly large amount of people, can also experience this virtually. Going forward, we've got ambient intelligence, which is one of the things that places are trying out to brand themselves. These are especially useful in the tourism industry, although not only. So through those various sensors, we are able to personalize the experience of place more and more often, like starting with determining the location of tourists, or personalizing services, or even data mining of social media to generate certain overview of tourists' profiles and intentions and moods and emotions. This is, of course, in the birth phase, in the embryonic phase still, but more and more cities and countries are resorting to it. Here we've got also the augmented reality, which is again widely used by different entities. And augmented reality, as we know, it allows us to see more and to see more context about places, about events, about certain objects related to the place's identity. And this is also more and more widely used. If we look at social networks, we very often forget that social networks are often a very diversified phenomenon. When we think of social networks, surely we think of Facebook, we think of Twitter, we think of Instagram, but we very often forget that there are many more than that, and each of them requires a different language and different approach. And that social media, they stand behind a lot of influences, or a lot of they represent a lot of impact when it comes to decisions for people to travel around place, to experience this place. So basically, they are a separate, a separate category to be taken care of. Aside from that, we've got several social networks that are not maybe that much used, like, for example, Wayne.com. It signifies, the abbreviation signifies where are you now? So this is the platform that connects places that are categorized not by location, geographical location, but by experiences, and it categorizes also the travelers who are able to meet like-minded people, to share their experiences with them, and to start a conversation with them about the place. Further, if we look into the social media issues, we have certain groundbreaking things. like, for example, the democratization of official social media of countries. Here, for example, we've got the case study of curators of Sweden, the first democratic Twitter account owned by the state. And here I'd like to play a very short film that shows you how it works. Just let me do it.
In Sweden, something unusual is happening. Normally, a country that has a Twitter account has that account run by an official of the government. Not so in Sweden. The people there are actually in charge.
In 2011, we became the first country in the world to let go of an official communication channel and hand it over to our citizens. Every week, someone in Sweden is at Sweden, sole ruler of the world's most democratic Twitter account. For 7 days, he or she shares their everyday life, private opinions, and general reflections. After that, someone else does the same, but differently. This is a simple way to give tips and advice on where to go on your holiday in Sweden. And a great way to interact with people around the world. You can come with us to a regular day at work. Or hang out with us on our free time, both in the busy city and out in the wild. The response was overwhelming. We attracted over 65,000 followers from 120 countries and started thousands of conversations. Sweden trended on Twitter worldwide, sparking discussions on transparency in social media and how technology can be used for democracy. The project has been featured all over the world, and after 6 months, the PR value is already $40 million. Some think it's just a clever PR campaign. Others believe that it's a beacon of free speech in a time when we need it more than ever. For us, it's the only way to paint a fair picture of Sweden for the rest of the world. Swede by Swede. Tweet by tweet.
Okay, so this is an interesting case. Sweden has been doing it for many years now, but they've decided to close the account because they are now thinking about a different way of communicating. It's just very recent. I just found out about it. But they have been doing it for years, and it's been, as you can see, quite successful. Another thing is another idea that is worth looking into is Lisbon's idea. It's called Lisbon's Hidden Viewpoints. And again, just let me show you how they have managed co-creation to enhance Lisbon's experience. Okay, if I may go to the film again.
Built over 7 sky-peaking hills is a city known for its endless slopes. But along the up and downhill streets that shorten our breath are the rewards of arriving at the top. The city's viewpoints. 16 privileged places to look at Lisbon from above and contemplate all its beauty. But are there really only 16? Could there be, amid the narrow streets, other breathtaking landscapes still hidden from our sight? On terraces, rooftops, balconies? Isn't there anything else to discover? We decided to make a new count. LX Up. Lisbon's Hidden Viewpoints. A project for the Lisbon City Council that invites people to share their personal viewpoints. First, for online visits, by submitting photos of the hidden viewpoints on the website or by sharing them on Instagram. And then, as an option, for in-person visits. At each new sunrise, new viewpoints were revealed. And in each new viewpoint, a new way of looking at Lisbon. The count keeps increasing. more than beautiful views, we discovered and shared places where few people had been. And over the 7 hills by the Tagus riverside is now the city with the most viewpoints in the world. LX Up, Lisbon's hidden viewpoints.
Okay, so as you could see, it's pretty much all about co-creation. It's about contributing to creating the brand experience. Okay, because I'm running out of time, I'm just going to draw your attention to a couple of more cases. This is, for example, city of Hun in Spain, which has only 35,000 citizens, but it has 400,000 followers because the mayor is basically running the city through Twitter account. I just suggest that you look into this case more closely. Again, this is the next thing that we can use. It's the Periscope, and it also invites people to share stories, to share authentic stories about place, and to encourage citizens to participate. Let's just have a quick look at it.
How do you show off a city's hidden secrets and let people go before they go? You make a game of it using Periscope, a game called Play Melbourne Live.
We are live. Welcome to the scope.
We created a ball that puts a live Periscope stream in the hands of real Melburnians to tell the most authentic stories of our city. In this game, the whole city is the field, and everyone in it, the players. The goal? Go from one side of our city to the next, passing the ball, answering your questions, and collecting as many stories as possible. Since our ball looked nothing like a phone or a video camera, curious locals, the kinds you'd want as your tour guides, embraced the games. We visited local designers, gained secret access to one of our most historic places.
We are here for the Andy Warhol and Ai Weiwei exhibition at the National Gallery of Victoria.
I love this. We're talking to the world through a globe. Isn't it fantastic?
Even got a song written while being guided through one of our most famous laneways. With each game, our followers and engagement has grown. Even the inventor of Periscope got excited about our new use of this new platform. With many games to come in 2016, we've made our ball design open source, so anyone can download it, make their own with simple materials, and bring us their own Periscope stories from wherever they live.
Okay, so this is just a sample of things that are happening throughout the world, and as you can see, this actually the new media give a lot of possibilities to engage in the co-creation of places. Again, another one is the Snapchat's live stories, which have 20 million views a day. So it just gives you the idea of what kind of audience we're talking about. Okay. Yes. Yes. I'm very sorry. Yeah. Okay, can I just try and answer a little bit, or are we really sort of that much out of time that I cannot? Because I've seen three questions here to me, I think. Of course. Well, I don't know if it's it can be the only one. Certainly it can be the first one. I think that many places can build their awareness among the target groups in the online environment, but definitely the strategy in the real world should follow, or it should be kind of parallelly developed in order to ensure this online and offline cohesion when it comes to place branding. Thank you Thank you. And I also know and I know his achievements, and I really respect his work and everything that IPM is doing. So thank you so much for this opportunity. If anyone should have any questions to me, like outside, I'm really kind of ready and open to answer all of them. Sorry about the timing, though.